So what's next for Josh Taylor? Well, in my opinion, he is on a 3-loss streak at this point. He lost comfortably against Jack Catterall in the first fight, and I think he lost comfortably in the second fight, although a little bit more close. Obviously, he lost to Teofimo Lopez in between those fights. So he's been on a pretty poor run as of late. But this was a guy at one point, back in, let's say, 2021, he was in the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. He was easily, in my opinion, the best fighter that's come out of Britain. But that was a few years ago. We're now in 2024. And where does Josh Taylor go from here? Well, he's not completely out of options. I think the dream scenario for him is he gets the third fight with Catterall to do the trilogy. He can still say, and his promoter will say the same, that it's one apiece at the moment. Let's do the trilogy. Every time that's brought up, I'm just going to roll my eyes because we all know Jack Catterall won the first fight. And in my opinion, he won the second fight by 3 or 4 rounds. It wasn't as close as people make out it was. I think it's very much an illusion where it comes to fighters being a little bit better than they were the last fight. So people are like, oh my God, it's got to be a close fight now. No, it was just Jack Catterall was still as good as he was the last fight. Probably even better maybe. And Josh Taylor was a lot better. So that's why people are like, oh, wow, that's actually a really close fight. It wasn't a really close fight at all. Anyway, I don't think this fight's going to happen because Jack Catterall's already said that he's going down the WBO route, which he's been going down for many years at this point, waiting. Obviously, he took step aside for the Jose Ramirez versus Josh Taylor fight to take place for Undisputed, but he's already said he wants to go for that WBO belt and obviously take on Teofimo Lopez, who is defending his title very soon. However, Josh Taylor's own trainer, and I think a lot of people have seen, don't think that Jack Catterall will even get a shot at that belt, which can definitely happen because Jack Catterall is in the Who Needs Me club. He doesn't sell well, he's not going to sell you big pay-per-views, he's not got a massive profile, and he's also a very talented and tricky fighter. And in my opinion, if Josh Taylor doesn't get a win over Jack Catterall, it is a little bit of a stinker on the resume. It kind of tarnishes him a bit. Don't get me wrong, if Josh Taylor retires today, he'd be a legend for what he's done. I think for him, his team, his fans, I think to not get one win over Jack Catterall, I know he technically has, but a convincing win. You know, not a win where Paddy Power actually refunds people who betted on Jack Catterall because the decision was that bad. You know, if Josh Taylor went out and knocked out Jack Catterall in a few rounds in the third fight or just boxed his head off for 12 rounds, I think that would really help his legacy. But if that fight doesn't happen, he can always do another fight at super lightweight and work his way back up to get the belts that he once owned. Obviously, Jack Catterall fights Teofimo Lopez. If Josh Taylor beats someone like maybe Jose Ramirez in that rematch that they could have, that would certainly get him up the rankings. Then perhaps next time he fights Jack Catterall, it could be for the WBO belt, which would make it huge. I don't think he'll face Sandor Martin because he's likely to get a shot at Devin Haney. You've also got guys like Richardson Hitchens, who won a IBF Eliminator fight to face Subriel Mateus. So I think, honestly, a Jose Ramirez fight would be really good to get him back up to world title contention. But if he doesn't want to do that, he doesn't want to stick around, because so many people have been talking about him moving up weight for years and years now. In my personal opinion, after he got Undisputed, he should have just gone straight up to welterweight. Those 6 or 7 pounds that he'll get moving up weight will add so much to his power, his punch resistance. So you look at him standing next to a Jack Catterall or a Regis Prograis, it boggles my mind that he even manages to get to 140 and look good. You know, he actually did look good in terms of on the scales. Against Jack Catterall, he looked healthy. So what could he do at welterweight? Well, we all know the king of the division is Terence Crawford. There's no disputing that. However, Crawford is fighting a weight division above in his next fight against WBA super welterweight champion Israel Madrimov. And although I don't think this is going to happen, there's been talks for a while about Crawford moving up as far as super middleweight to take on Canelo. So what I'm getting at is Crawford's days at welterweight are probably numbered at this point, which means that he could vacate the WBA, WBC and WBO belts, which obviously means Josh could get in a position where he could fight for those vacated belts and potentially be a 2-weight world champion, which I'm sure he'd be absolutely up for. And we know later on in the year, Jaron Ennis takes on Cody Crowley for the IBF belt, so perhaps Josh Taylor could take on one of the new titleists. Now, this is another option, and this would be amazing if this happened. But what about Conor Benn versus Josh Taylor in an all-British clash? That would instantly sell out the O2. That would be a massive fight. I doubt Conor's team would take that fight. I know Eddie Hearn says, we'll take on everybody. They're talking about Jaron Ennis. So if you're talking about Jaron Ennis, who is the guy, or potentially going to be the guy in the division, then why don't you take on Josh Taylor, who is coming off 3 losses, in my opinion, a poor run of form, former undisputed champion. Can you imagine what that would do for Conor Benn's career if he won? I wouldn't say he'd win, by the way. I think he'd lose, but they're both very fiery characters when they want to be. I mean, the build-up would be insane. I don't know, that would just be a fight that I'd love to see. Josh himself has actually mentioned that he would like to go up to 147 and become a two-weight world champion. He's obviously collected all the belts at super lightweight, and like I said, after that undisputed fight against Jose Ramirez, he should have just gone straight up to welterweight anyway. Now, the last option for Josh Taylor in his career, and the one that I don't want him to take, and I don't think he will take, is retirement. Now, if Josh Taylor retires now, he'd be retiring with 19 wins, 2 losses, becoming Britain's first undisputed champion in the 4-belt era, beating undefeated champions such as Regis Prograis and Jose Ramirez. And in my opinion, the absolute highlight of Josh Taylor's career, when anyone asks me what was Josh Taylor like as a fighter, what he did in his career, I will mention this 6-fight run that he went on in the lead up to the Jose Ramirez fight, where his last 6 opponents had a combined record of 136 wins, 1 loss, with the one defeat coming from the pound-for-pound king, Terence Crawford. Add to that, 5 of the 6 fighters were undefeated, and 3 of them were world champions. So, I mean, that's just ridiculous. That is absolutely insane. So no matter what Josh does, what he goes on to do, he's already a legend. And you'd hope by now he's got enough money to sell into the sunset, knowing he's become undisputed, he's an absolute legend of the game, and one of the best fighters that's ever come out of Britain. Like I said, probably the most unlikely outcome, but you never know. So let me know what you'd like Josh to do in the comments below. For me, I'd love to see him just go up to welterweight now. The third fight with Jack Catterall would be good, but I want Jack Catterall to go on and get the world title shot now. So welterweight, 147, get a fight with Conor Benn, and bosh.